Hello and welcome to another We Interview video here on Gamingtrend. My name is Adam Marino, and today we have a chance to talk to Madden NFL 25 franchise mode lead, Josh Looman. Josh is here to talk with us about Madden NFL 25, specifically about franchise mode and what we have to expect for this year. Franchise mode is my favorite mode in the entire game, and every year I put way too much time into it. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. As you know, it's also my favorite mode, and I've been playing it since before I joined the Madden team in EA, since I was a teenager, and it's really been a part of my entire adult life, and I love it, and I really appreciate how much the fans love it.
That's so exciting. And we've got a huge thing coming out today. You guys can see it on all of EA's setups. It is a breakdown of everything franchise. So let's jump into it. The first question that I have for you: what is one specific part of Madden franchise mode you believe makes it iconically Madden? What keeps people coming back year after year to this mode specifically?
I think, it might sound like a bit of a cop out, but for me, it's always about capturing what's special about the NFL in real life and not just about the games every Sunday, pulling all of that together and building this fantasy that allows you to feel like you are a part of your favorite team. And there's this universe going on around you where all the other teams are building and making choices on who their starting quarterback is and going through the draft every year and that kind of stuff. And just this feel of like I'm part of this universe. I can help shape who my team is. I mean, for instance, I think you and I talked about this before, but I've been a Lions fan my entire life, and things are good like right now, and they were good a couple times in the past. But that fantasy for me was always exciting because I could go in when Calvin Johnson was on the team or when they were players on the team that I loved, and I could figure out personally how to build around those players and build a team that kind of what represented what I cared about with football. And the current Lions team actually looks a lot like what I care about. It's playing great defense, running the ball, being physical, that kind of stuff. And I think franchise mode gives you that ability to say, how would I take my favorite team and shape them the way that I would want to?
Exactly. That is so, yeah, that is the reason that I like franchise mode. I did that. I remember doing that with the 1 in 15 Dolphins and having to take that team. And I'm just like, how can I fix that? How can I make that better? And now, things are good for the Dolphins right
Yeah.
now, but you can always make it better. And maybe I don't have a meltdown in the playoffs, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the exciting thing, right? That's the other fun part about franchise mode that I've always loved is, I'll start a franchise or play online with my friends with the Lions, but then I'll also take a team that I'll look at and go, can I fix that team right
Mm-hmm.
now? Can I do something with their roster? Can I win at the draft? Can I fix them through free agency or can I progress players and like can I build them in such a way? So, there's so many different ways to play franchise mode and kind of, approach it from a different perspective that I think that part's really fun too.
Well, that transitions great into the next question. What are some of the new updates to franchise mode that will set it apart from the past few years?
We've got a ton, so bear with me while I talk about them all. But I would say the number one thing that we really focused on, and we'll probably talk about this in more depth in a second, but we really focused on immersion. So I came back in November. I haven't even been here for the full development cycle along the way, but the team had done a great job preparing the ideas for what they wanted to do for Madden 25 when I joined. I loved everything they were doing, and I really wanted to help them by doubling down on immersion and storytelling and making sure that that was an important aspect of things. So all the scenarios that have been in franchise mode in the past are gone. Like we've completely redone the entire thing, and there are now dynamic storylines, and a lot of them, heavily influenced or involved with player personalities. So we had personalities in the game in Madden 24, but they weren't directly tied into any key important system, or they didn't have the influence that I think you would want them to. So we made sure that all of these new storylines make it so when you make a choice or a decision, and I promise you the choices you're going to make are going to be difficult. Like there's no more layups of like, hey, tell somebody you thought they had a good game or that they played all right. Like you're making real choices here where you're trying to figure out what's our plan for the offseason, or how do I fix this player that's in a slump right now? Or I've got a guy that showed up to training camp out of shape. What do I say to motivate him? And not only do you have those tough choices now, but also every player based on their personality type is going to react differently. So some players will actually like it when you push the right buttons and are tough on them and motivate them
Wow.
based on their personality. They'll actually react in a different way, while other players may bristle a little bit at that and go, look, that's not kind of how I like things handled. So I think what's important is you have to know your roster, you have to know your players and know the roster that you're putting together and know the right buttons to push along the way. So I think we've got a total of over 80 brand new storylines, including completely new breakout player storylines that have all this layered depth to them. Like when you play it once, the next time you play it, it may have a completely different path it goes down.
Wow.
Um, we got so crazy at one point that we broke the tool that creates storylines because we were trying to make storylines that were so deep and layered that would last like, a season or longer, that kind of thing. And we still were able to build amazing stuff along the way. But that was one of the most important things that I think we wanted to deliver this year. And all of the ideas are inspired by things from real life. Just everything that you would see in the NFL throughout the season, including the offseason, preseason, that kind of stuff. We wanted to capture that. The second one I'm really excited about is NFL Draft Night. So no longer do you see a player standing on a stage in his football uniform at the draft, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Yeah, exactly. I imagine you've seen that about 5,000 times at this point.
Just a
But
few times.
yeah, so now you have players walking out on stage in suits when they're picked. They hug Roger Goodell. And it's actually interesting. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a completely different presentation in the later rounds than you actually see in the first round. So the later rounds, you'll see something completely different. That's really exciting. So it brings that presentation and makes the draft feel alive. And also with that, we've changed the prospect board so that we've gone back to more of a spreadsheet style thing. So when you're looking at the list of players to draft or scout, you don't have to press a button, go into their player card, try to find some information in there, write it down on a pad of paper, back
Hmm.
out, which I've done a million times along the way. So
Yep.
now, if you just want to sort the players that you've scouted by speed or agility or any other rating,
Wow.
you can do that quickly and go, based on what I've scouted so far, that guy's the fastest. I want to take him with this pick. So I think it makes your draft selection process and your scouting process so much smoother and more efficient along the way. So that was really important for us. So focusing on the draft there, making sure that that was key was crucial. Then we focused on Franchise Central, which is basically what we're calling kind of our new home base for franchise. And what we want to do there, going back to that immersion point that we talked about and the storytelling, we pulled out news stories and added a ton of new news stories and made them a lot more visual to help tell the story of the season. So in Madden 24, when you would look at the news panel, there was a list of stories and you'd be sifting through them, looking, going like, is that important, or like does that matter to me, that kind of thing. So now on your main page that you see when you come right out of the game or when you load into franchise, there's a top stories section that you can scroll through that'll tell you players that got traded or cut or big game results or any of the most important thing. We referred to it a lot of the time throughout the development cycle as breaking news, but we're calling it top stories. It's basically like, what's the important stuff you need to know? Along with that, we have a new messaging feature where personnel from your team, like your coordinators or your team trainer, will send you information week to week, giving you updates on injuries on your team, suggesting players that are currently on the trade block from other teams and saying, like, this defensive tackle would be a great fit for us. They just got put on the trade block. We should go try to make an offer for them. So just pulling in more of that immersion, more of that storytelling. And then also within that in Franchise Central, you've got standings, you've got information about your matchup this week. You got all the information right at your fingertips. You can still tab over and go look at your roster or go to your depth chart and all that kind of stuff like you always have been able to in the past. But
Sure.
we're trying to bring as much of the most important information to you to that first screen that you see when you come out of game. So that's
Reminds
huge.
me a lot of the old school, like Madden 12, Madden 13, that visual. The way
Yep.
you're describing it is giving me those vibes.
Very similar. Yeah, that first year of, I know we don't call it this anymore, but I still have a fond memory of CFM. I used to call it, but yeah, it's like, in that same vein, I think we're always trying to figure out what's the right information to bring to people, what's the right user experience along the way, and then really doubling down kind of on the immersion aspect this year. We wanted to make sure that we delivered that 100%. So not only that, we've got Team Builder, which is awesome. So you can go in now, you can upload a logo, you can completely create a uniform from scratch. You can create the helmet, the pants, the jersey, everything there. You can modify the field in your stadium. You can press a button at Team Select and go in and import your team and take them into franchise mode immediately and start playing with them. They show up in all the
Wow.
storylines. They're just like a real team. So you're no longer kind of locked into what we've offered as the relocation teams, right? Like before, it was like you may have liked the uniforms and logos and stuff, but you were kind of limited to just picking those. Now, create what you want if you want to along the way, and be able to import that into franchise. And the really cool thing is you can actually import 32 teams into franchise if you want to. So we talked to another reviewer at one point, or the press at one point, and they were from the UK, and they were asking questions about, do you ever think from the relocation perspective we could ever have a lot of UK teams to relocate? And our answer to them was, you could actually create 32 UK-based teams, create the uniforms yourself on the web, import them into franchise mode. And the really cool thing about Team Builder is you can also share those teams. So if somebody else is an amazing creator out there and they create something that I go, whoa, that's awesome, I can go download that team and bring that into franchise mode, or I can share my team I created and let people download that. So we think people are going to love that. It's going to completely add such a massive layer of customization into franchise mode and give people the ability to be, so creative and create amazing stuff. So I'll hurry because I've got a lot I'm talking about. So, which I'm sure the fans are actually very happy about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great new presentation. There's a new Super Bowl celebration. There's more banners in game for franchise mode where they'll show stat rankings. They'll show the awards races along the way. A lot of cool stuff with that, including, and this is a feature that the community has asked for years and years and years. It's always something that I wanted to get when I joined the team. I was so excited to find out that they were already doing it. Is the inclusion of team and rookie records. So now it's like rookie passing record, rookie rushing record, rookie sack record, your team, like the Lions all-time rushing record, which is going to be hard to break with Barry, but
Yeah.
I can try. Probably have an easier time of passing with the Lions. But
Maybe.
you know what I mean? It's like, you can now per team have all the team records and rookie records along the way, and you can try to break those and all that kind of stuff. So tons of stuff there. I'm sure I'm leaving out one or two little things here or there. We did a lot of tuning, especially with re-sign logic, franchise tag logic, draft logic, free agency logic. Really trying, progression was a big thing, really trying to get teams to build around younger players and not just go in and go, hey, there's a guy who's an 84 overall that might make sense on my roster, but he's also 34. And there's no reason I should I should focus on that guy when I'm actually re-signing players and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they're a lot more intelligent from those perspectives. Younger players progress faster, and older players, like my example that I brought up a couple times so far, is that I looked at the logic when we came in and we talked about it, and I would see things like Derrick Henry would be getting faster at 32 years old. I'm like, nope, shouldn't be getting faster or more agile, that kind of stuff. So we worked on a lot of that stuff and made sure that older players regress physically. But they can, obviously their intangibles can still always go up. So tons of stuff we added, tons of depth. You'll read about it all in the blog at this point. But I feel like everything we've built this year is an amazing foundation that we can keep pushing on going into the future.
And that's something, just before we move on to the next question, that's something that I really appreciated about talking with the team with Madden, is that as I have continued reviewing this for Gamingtrend, every year I see the progression and I hear from you guys about the goals where, we can't talk about it yet, but we're making progress, where we have those goals. And it seems like this is one of the biggest jumps that we've had in a little while, of just like the presentation of franchise specifically. But I do think that it's very commendable to you guys that, you have a very short cycle between games, and to have this much new content coming out is very exciting for franchise players, for me specifically, but I'm sure everybody's really excited about it. Speaking of, as someone who worked in franchise in the past, went away for a little bit and has now returned to franchise mode, you may have already talked about it, but let's get a little bit deeper. What's something that when you returned, you were like, we got to get this in franchise, we got to get this maybe back into franchise?
Yep. So again, I think it came down to a theme like I talked about earlier, and really it's about immersion. And, when I was starting to talk to the Madden team leadership and Connor and Mike Mahar about potentially coming back, when I was having discussions with them, we would be on the phone for an hour talking about immersion. And we would be talking about franchise mode needs to feel alive. And I think, in Madden 24 and Madden 23, the franchise team added a lot of great features.
Yeah.
But when I came in, my first thought was, we need to make this mode feel alive so that we can continue to build on that fantasy we talked about earlier of like, I feel like I'm in this league and I feel like there's stuff going on around me that makes sense and is special and surprises me sometimes, but I feel like I'm part of a team. I feel like I'm running a team. I feel like I've got all these personalities on my team that I've got to manage all the time, and all these situations that occur in the storylines that would happen in real life. And I've got to figure out, as the leader of this team, how to kind of work my way through that. So I think that was the most important part, was let's focus on immersion. Let's make sure storytelling is really important at this point. Let's make sure the draft is amazing, and let's continue doing that as we continue to come up with ideas down the road.
That's so exciting to hear. And as somebody, again, as somebody that plays a lot of franchise as well, I'm so excited to experience the storylines, experience Roger Goodell cheering on my draft pick, all
Yeah.
these things that you guys talked about in the preview, and now it's like coming to fruition. We're seeing the final stuff. We're seeing the blog that came out today. I'm so very excited. Now, before we end, I always like to ask this question to everybody that comes on. What is one happy memory of working your time through the industry that will always remain with you as a happy memory?
Well, I guess I'm a little bit different because I've been around so long. I'm like a dinosaur at this point, especially on Madden. Like sometimes I'm like the old grandpa on Madden. Like I'll be at a meeting and I'll be like, back in 2006, and people are like, one of my designers the other day said, yeah, I was like in preschool when
Yeah.
you're talking about that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so old at this point. But I've got a lot of happy memories. I think, creating the working on the first owner mode, working on creating the first superstar mode. One of my favorite features of all time that I just loved working on was the DNA feature in Superstar originally, where you could pick your mom and dad. And
Yep.
your mom was an Olympic sprinter and your dad was a neurosurgeon. They would combine to make you this incredibly fast and smart wide receiver. I loved all the years working on like the first version of CFM when we built that was amazing and just kind of interacting with the community along the way. Working on NFL head coach '09's my favorite game I
Yeah.
ever worked on in my entire life. I felt like that was the one game where if we had a great idea, we just figured out a way to get it in the game along the way. And there's still stuff from that game that in the future, not going to make any promises. And I'm not the only decision maker, obviously. I'm part of a team and just kind of a piece of that team. But I'd love to bring some of that stuff back
Yeah.
and take some pieces from that, at least the inspiration of those pieces, and figure out how they make sense in the future in franchise mode. But yeah, it's kind of a weird question for me because I have so many great memories over the years, and I'm just really excited to be back on the game again. And I left and worked on non-sports games for about 5 years, and that was really fun. But my heart has always been with Madden. I was 18 years old with my buddies standing in Toys R Us at a kiosk because I didn't have a, Nintendo of my own to be able to play Madden, and actually just sitting there, and we would sit there for 2 hours in Toys R Us playing because they didn't actually lock it out as a demo. I just play for franchise mode for hours before I joined the team. So just lots of great memories over the years, and I'm so excited to keep building great stuff and give you guys great stuff moving forward.
Well, it's so exciting to hear your excitement. And I think that for most franchise players, they're going to see the energy coming from you guys, you, Connor, everybody else on that team, and they're going to feed off of that energy. And especially with things like the new commentator teams, the
Yes.
addition to having male and female body types as coaches,
Yep.
you guys have Roger Goodell for the
Yes.
draft,
I,
and that's
I told you,
huge.
I forgot all kinds of stuff. Like the
That's
fact
why
that
I'm here.
I know, that's awesome. Like the fact that we have like commentary teams now, like multiple commentary teams. I don't know how much I can say at this point, but yes, we have multiple commentary teams that make your experience completely different. You're right. It's awesome. And there's one thing I want to say before we end. I'm so proud of my design team. And I've got three amazing designers that have worked on this game. And sometimes I feel like because I've been here a really long time, people know who I am, that sometimes it becomes, hey, it's Josh, and we know who he is and that kind of stuff. But my three designers came up with all of these ideas before I even got here. I helped them build them, but they're amazing. The stuff they're talking about already for the future is great. So they deserve all the credit for this year's game. And I'm just really proud to work with them. It's the best design team I've ever worked with. And I'm really excited to kind of see what they can do moving forward.
Well, we just want to thank you again for joining us on our We Interview series. It's been amazing to talk to you about everything going on with Madden NFL 25's franchise mode, which everybody watching, you can check out August 16th. Thank you so much for your time, Josh, and wish you luck at launch.
Yeah, definitely. It was great to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.